Alright, so I'm back with our old little thing, and one thing I forgot to actually run over with the basic variables was arrays. So basically, to make an array, you just do this, and normally when you declare it, you give it a certain amount of how much you can do. Right now we've been declaring stuff in the globals, so we will just stop doing that. Today we will be going over arrays and loops. And also if statements and possibly case statements. We're going over a lot today. So, let's see here. Basically, we want to create something that will run multiple times. Yeah, it will run multiple times. And so, ew. Actually, that's going to be the end. So, basically, a while loop repeats what's inside its brackets, here and here, while this statement is true. So for now, we'll say that we'll make a variable called input that is a char, and in this we will say input. Now this is going to be kind of a new one here, so just bear with me as I kind of just get rid of everything that we've already done. So the first thing that we're going to do is basically we're going to have a list. So here we go. The list will be one create array new line 2 average. Actually, we'll do list array. And then new line 3 average array, which will give us the average of the numbers in the array. And basically, these are just options for the people to say. And 4 is exit. I guess really the input is a number, actually. So we'll change it to an integer. Or should we make it? Yeah, an integer. Yeah, we'll get into case statements, I guess. So basically, how a case statement works is you call switch, and we basically put a variable into the switch statement. So let me see here. Just kidding. We want to put variable input, which we will get from a line of code that I haven't added yet. So basically, we will use the input and put it into the input, and then we switch input, and basically the switch statement is probably one of the weirder statements. Anyways, so here's how you do it. You do case. I think you put the number over here, and you just put the number that it would equal. And then on this side, you put your code. So case 1, we wish to... let's just go over functions as well. So we're going to call a function. If it's case 1, we call the function create array, and pass in nothing. So basically that will just create an array. Case 2 is going to be list array, and we'll just make it basically the same. The reason I don't pass anything in is because I don't need to, and we can go over that later when maybe I do a little example program where we need to. Case 3 is average array, and case 4 we actually do this. We'll set an is running, just because I want to show how some things work. Is running to false. Another thing that I have to add at the end of each one of these is a break, because it will actually continue to run down the line if you don't put break in, which breaks out of this particular loop. Case is a very strange kind of if statement thing. You could do it with if, else, and all that. Let's see here, and that should actually work. So, and you don't need that. And actually, there is this one called default, that if it doesn't work, this is the default it falls back on, which will just be a break statement. Okay, so basically, this will now go to all the functions. Let's create those functions. Whenever you're making a function, it has to have some sort of type. So if you aren't going to have it return anything, void goes in front. And I know I'm just kind of writing this, so if there are any questions, definitely ask those. And I can go over it in maybe a follow-up movie or something, a follow-up video. So, that's true, we need a boolean, or just a bool actually, because you don't put boolean for your boolean, is running. And in C++, it actually doesn't matter. You can like assign an integer, a boolean to an integer and stuff like that, and some other things. It's really kind of weird, but basically, anything that's not a 0 is true. Anything that is a 0 and a 0 is false. So even something that might take a boolean variable can actually take integers as well. And if it's a 1, it's true. If it's a 1 or above, it's true. If it's a 0, it's false. So, pretty basic. Even if it's a -1, it's true. Because of the way binary numbers work. So, anyways, we create the array. To create an array, we output something probably like, I don't know, output how many numbers. And so I'm actually gonna have to do something fairly interesting, because I can't just like create it on the fly. Well, we're just going to hope that somehow this works. And as far as I know, this is C++ way to do it, so hopefully it works. Yeah. 1 second, let me just look up some. Okay, so since I don't know how to do like variable memory and stuff right now, and I know that you have to clean it up and stuff afterwards, and I don't know how to do that, so for now, we'll work with that stuff later. But for now, we will just give ourselves an array big enough to do however many numbers we would want. And so again, to create an array, you do this. And I think we'll give ourselves 100 numbers, just because I wouldn't want to sit here and type 100 numbers, which is what we're going to kind of have to do in the program, is type in your numbers. So basically, you get how many numbers, and we will put these into an integer specifically for this function. which also means any variable called in a function cannot be accessed in a different function, which is why I've put global variables. It's even said not to do this, but it works, and so I use it. So integer n for number, and I'm not going to go over all this stuff because you guys should know how that works if you've watched the other two. And now, let's see here. How many numbers? You get the number of numbers. Okay, now I'm going to teach you about the for loop. This loop is very interesting, and when I say loop, it basically means it repeats. For those wondering. Okay, so basically, in a for loop, it repeats so many times. So basically, you declare a new variable. We can actually say n. So we're going to use. So this is just basically saying we're going to use n. What the hey? Okay, so let's just say we're going to use this variable called c. You can call it anything you want still and everything, but you basically declare it, and you want to also give it a number to start with, and I'm going to use 0. Okay, then this is your basically check to see if it should be done yet. And normally, what you do is you just go is c less than in a normal for loop is c less than n. And then at the end, you say what you want to do it each time it finishes. So when it finishes, it will call whatever's here. This could be a function, it could be anything. But plus plus basically means I want you to add 1 to c. And so what will happen when this goes through each time is 1 will be added to c. So the first time c will equal 0, then it'll go back through. C will equal 1, 2, 3, so on. So this is very useful for things you want to repeat, but maybe slightly different numbers and stuff. And in fact, for loop is a very, very useful loop, as is while loop is one of the next useful. And basically, each time it comes back to here, it says, is this true? If it is true, then it does it again. If it's not, then it will just jump out of that loop. And you can put break in here at any time, and it will break the loop. So, okay, here we go. If statement. Let's say you do more than 100 numbers. You wouldn't want this loop to go through, so if m is greater than 100, and basically whatever's in these brackets is ran if that is true. So if it is greater than 100, we wish to output invalid amount. Invalid amount must be less. Oh, what did I just press? Oh, must be 100 or less. And basically that will just tell the user it must be 100 or less. You could use no, you can't use a break. Okay, I was thinking, well, you could do like a return statement, and that would return from the function. So return returns from a function at any time, anywhere. Break breaks out of the current loop. And continue will break the current loop, but then it will come back and do it again. So it's basically saying continue, but don't do the rest of the code and just go back. But since we aren't doing that, we'll do an else statement. And basically, else is, if it's not this, then it must be fine. And Actually, there's something else I want to do here. Okay, so how you do an and is you do a double and sign, and this will basically boolean and these two. So if this one is false, if this one is true, I actually want to do an or. Now this may seem like a weird symbol for an or, but it's true. It's a boolean or. And so basically, if n is greater than 100 or n is less than 0, which is a problem in arrays because you can't have negative numbers in arrays, then it's an invalid amount must be from 0 to 100. And then, okay, so now we're finally into our for loop. Hopefully you're catching on. If not, ask me questions if you're the person who I'm doing this for mainly. And if anybody else has questions, definitely ask. So, our for loop here is going to basically go over our array, which is A. So basically, A, C. Now, you might be asking, what does this mean? Well, basically, when you call an array, has all these numbers in it, and you can do this kind of stuff with pointers too. Get into that later. Something to look forward to. But basically, A is the array, and then inside these brackets, you put the position that you want. You can actually put variables in this position, so that's why I can do that. And it can't be floats or anything. It has to be char, integer, basically anything that. Well, I guess you could put a float. So anything that can be condensed down into an integer, you can put into there, because that's the kind of positions it's going to be used, or expanded out into an integer, which most values can. So if you have an A bracket, oh yeah, so basically this equals, actually, it's this. So as you're entering values, you get it. So I'll just put a little notification here for the people. Whoops. Enter value. And since I can't remember how to do those numbers, you can look it up in like a reference or something. It's always possible. Enter value this. And then we're going to want to enter a value C. Just give us a little number and put the other code outside of it. I really wish I could remember how to do that stuff. Let me actually look it up. Actually, I just remembered how to do it. So, you might be questioning, well then, how do you do it? It's fairly simple. So, yes, you can do multiple C-outs like that, or you can do it this way. Basically, each arrow is tacking it on to the next part, so you can just kind of go like this, and it makes it much, much cleaner. So we'll make a period and then a new line, because that's what we would want. And then you enter the value, and it goes into your array, and creating the array should now work. However, there is one last thing. If you put a function down before, and you want to declare it above, like let's say, like in this case where we declare it above, but it's down here, you can either put this whole declaration above, or you can just say this, and that way it knows that it can access it before, but it doesn't know exactly where it is. Just a little tip. And actually something you probably do want to know how to do. Alright, so there's only two other things to do. It's basically the same, so I will just come back when I have done it. One thing I just remembered you have to do is you have to remember this number. So let's actually just take out that temporary variable and put it up here, because it does have to be remembered, sadly. So there we go. And I guess we'll just show you this part. I just realized it doesn't take too long. So we can just say like this, value, we can just say value C equals, and then I don't want to do a new line yet. So here's how I'll just quickly kind of shove this all together. Oh, come on now. Don't give me that garblegook. Okay. And then you push over the number in your array, and that's just how you would list the array, and it would list it. Okay, then to average the array. Now, this one's going to be a little bit more interesting, but still basically the same. So you basically, this time, I want an integer of the average. And we'll still do that for loop, but this time with something with, because everyone knows how to do average, right? I mean, pretty simple. Average equals the array at position C. And I'm going to do something special here. Plus equals. It basically what this does is says average plus whatever's on the right, and then it equals the average plus whatever's on the right. It's kind of weird, but that's just how it works. I guess I forgot to actually say last time that variables can be assigned values with the equal sign. Now you know. And then you can out the average divided by n, which is the number of numbers. So there you go. That should actually compile correctly. I will check to make sure and come back when I have debugged everything. Oh, wait. Some things will not compile correctly because I do not have end lines. Very important that you check this. Okay, I'll come back. Okay, so remember what I said about this while loop? What you're going to want to do is make sure that is running is at first true, because it actually will, the program will set it to false originally. And then, basically, since it's a Boolean, while is running, which basically means while whatever this is inside here is true, then it will continue to do all this. And basically, you just keep on going. And you can do this as many times as you like, which is why I kind of showed this. And so that should fix mostly everything. It also said I was missing an end line somewhere. Let me see if I can find it. I actually can't find it, so let me just take a look. Expected before string constant. 61 and basically line 61. Line 61. Well, nice here. This is very... that's right here. There. So that needs to be there. Okay. Let me see if this will work. I'll just pause it, make sure it all compiles, make sure it runs correctly, and then I'll show you. Okay, now as you can see here, we have some new line problems and stuff, but it actually does work. I just ran through it. So let me just look through here and just see what all the problems are. For one thing, these spaces are not too nice. You should actually have these right next to each other, as crazy as that may seem. And then, I guess it wouldn't hurt to do a new line here. Actually, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to exit this, like you should. Boom. Okay, and then also you should have a new line here. And I think that basically sums up what needs to happen. It's here because, yep, because that new lines. I'm pretty sure everything else was okay. So yeah, you do that. That looks fine. That needed help. So yeah, that should actually be it. And I'll show you this program in action here in a second, but there was something I wanted to go over. I forget what it was now. It was something that I knew, just had to go over. Okay, let me see. I'll look for it. Okay, I remember what it is. In arrays, the first number is actually 0. But you enter how many numbers you want there to be. So if you enter in 100, the highest value you can put in here is actually 99. It sounds strange, but it's true. If you use pointers, it actually won't care how big your array is, and it will actually go into other memory that maybe you don't want it to. So when we get into pointers, you always need to make sure you're really careful when experimenting with them. But yeah, okay. Let's run this thing. So I'll just full screen this. That way we can really see it good. And we do our normal thing, which is this line of code. I already have it copied. And you do it how you normally would. And then you do this. You run it like we normally would, and here it is. And oh, I didn't save the file. Remember to always save. If something goes wrong, you can almost guarantee that it's probably because you didn't save. So let me just try this again. Alright, and here we go. Much nicer. So we create the array, we put in 10 numbers, and we'll just put in some garbly geek numbers. You can do any number, any amount of numbers, but see when I put in 10, it only goes up to 9. It's actually the 10th number because you started with 0. And then we list it. It gives me all the numbers that I put in. And when you average it, it gives you the average. Right there. And you could, of course, add more text and stuff if you wanted to for better usages. But yeah. And then to exit, just hit 4. It breaks out of that while loop, and you're done. And that is how you make a nice looking program. So, might work with some other stuff, but that's it for now. And definitely it for this recording session. So, until next time, any questions, definitely ask, because I am willing to answer them. I've been programming for a while, so it's kind of hard to remember what it was like just starting out. Bye.